speak now after Dr. But he suggests that it should be a good time to introduce Christine and to take this to. We definitely had a very good, clear other view of this whole planning process. Look at it, and I'd like to ask Christine to give her view.
Well, maybe I can just, in a way, gather my thoughts in terms of what I've heard from the others. I mean, obviously, we have a government view, a government planner. In a way, you could say somebody who stands behind authority. And obviously, it's essential for the Hong Kong government to have ever deeper and broader discussions with their counterparts on the mainland. Then we have somebody who travels in that area all the time. And what's very interesting about that is if you're indeed, like Ralph, traveling in the PRD all the time, you notice on the ground what's happening. And I know that Ralph has also had extensive thoughts about what it means in terms of Hong Kong, our infrastructure, I mean, what you build, maybe what you don't need to build, how you solve problems, and so on. So a very thoughtful, external, a citizen's perspective. Then we have Professor Yip, who is taking a sort of more intellectual approach to the process. So I want to frame this just by telling you who I am. I run a non-profit public policy think tank, so we are working at the edges of policy and politics. How are decisions made? Where are they made? And of course, most importantly for think tanks, where can our organization make a difference? We can't do everything. We can't cover everything. So it is about, for an organization like ours, a strategic choice as to what it is that we can do. And I'll just say one more thing before I go into my presentation, is in order to be strategic, in order to choose something that we can do at Civic Interchange, we need to understand the process. We need to know where to stick in our needle. So this is what it's about. We've been looking at, I personally have been looking at developments in China since 1980. My first job was in China. And this whole, what Ralph talked about, the transformation, traveling within China, traveling within southern China, I certainly resonate with a lot of that personal experience. And Hong Kong now becoming a part of China, and looking at not just Hong Kong, and the Pearl River Delta, even that is too small. In fact, if we look at our kind of minimum well-being, we're looking at the entire Pearl River watershed, and that rises in Yunnan, right, and it ends kind of pretty much where we are. So I just want to say that from our point of view, we think we even need to look bigger. But today I'm just going to focus on the PRD. And I do think there is something that we can gain and we can give in this process, very much like what Professor Yip has talked about. Well, why do we collaborate? It's actually quite simple. We're very much deeply connected to the hinterland. The hinterland is our airshed, our watershed, where our food comes from, is our totality of our biodiversity. It's also the source of pollution. But of course, as we've been reminded, Hong Kong people have been investing and doing things across the border now for a very long time. So that whole experience of what we have done, what we're doing, how we're going to collaborate to clean up, I believe this is part of one story. So this thinking about the pollution is coming from them, and we have nothing to do with it, there's nothing we can do about it, I completely reject that thought. It is really about how we can collaborate now to take bigger steps to clean up. There is a vision. The vision is a kind of green PRD. That's an agreed vision, and I completely agree with Professor Yip that this is rhetoric at this stage. And how are we going to fill in the meat? Filling in the meat to the skeleton is what I think we all need to do. How we need to participate in that process and exploit the process. You've already heard what happened. The National Development and Reform Commission, at the end, in December 2008, this was the time when they pumped out that document about the PRD. And it was out as a consultation document. Yes, these documents are long and boring, and it doesn't make it to the press. But for people who are interested in this process, it is how the it is how the mainland works. And at Civic Exchange, we noticed that this was an important document. It must be read, it must be digested, and because it was a consultation document, it should be acted upon. So at that time, the job that we did at Civic Exchange was that we took that document, we realigned it, and we made it much more easy to read for people. Because the original document comes in like a bleh of words. Very unattractive, very unapproachable. So, as I said, just by even taking the document, by putting paragraphs and highlighting bits and relaying out in a way, it makes it much easier for people to digest. And we try to put that document to a number of different organizations, and we suggested to them that they should read this and consider responding. Then there was the framework agreement, which has been talked about, and I won't go into that. Again, that is something that sort of derives from these ideas that have been circulating, of course, up in Beijing for a number of years. And now we have this particular document. So the question that I have is, for all its failings, or for maybe it's even unfair to use the word failing, because the mainland has its way of doing things. Hong Kong has its way of doing things. And let's just take ourselves away from the mainland mindset for a time being, and just talk about Hong Kong's consultation document, which all of you have read, and all of you must have been unhappy about various parts of it. So all I'm saying is, every community, every jurisdiction has their own rhetoric, processes, and political overlay. The interesting about Hong Kong and China is we're juxtaposing these two systems, and we're trying to find a way of seeing how to work it. The mainland system is huge, the Hong Kong system is small, but what's interesting is this is not about big and small. This is about two systems now, and we're meeting in Guangdong. We're meeting in the Pearl River Delta. And we may be saying we're meeting in southern China, and we're thinking even broader. And it is in this space that we're going to be finding a path where it's not about big and small, it's about ideas, about processes, and about human energy. What will be the Hong Kong human energy impact on this process? And I hope to show you that actually Hong Kong has already been quite energetic in this process. Okay, in terms of what can Hong Kong give, we are, as a community, beginning to think about what quality of life means. I don't think we're nearly there, but in the community of Hong Kong today, I think as a community, we're trying to articulate what we think is the quality of life for us in Hong Kong. We're thinking about what it means to live in a city where it's high density, it's a Chinese city, we have a neighborhood with lots of activities. We're thinking about biodiversity, we're thinking about our country parks and our marine parks. These are things that as a community, not just a few leaders, this is what happened in the 70s, where the community as a whole is now entering this space. So we all need to be ready for a lot of creativity, a lot of debate and arguments about what that means. So the green PRD idea, the green Hong Kong idea, sticking it next to the PRD, how are we going to shape it as a community? Our rule of law system and the processes that Professor Yip talked about, yes, we have processes. Coming together, these ideas, these processes, how is that going to work? Public consultations. We're unhappy about public consultations in Hong Kong, let's face it. Yes, the mainland system, it is an early model of trying to involve more views. So obviously, the Hong Kong systems, for all of its imperfections, it is a system that has something for the less developed mainland system to kind of take a look at.